Welcome back to our MLA citation presentation, part 2. So, this is the part where I actually explain about how to do in-text citations and your works cited page citations. In-text citations are not hard. A lot of people hear that term and they're not quite sure what it means. So they're like, oh, I don't know how to do that. It's not hard. All it means is that at the end of a quote that you take from another source, or at the end when you're talking about another source, you need to reference what source that is. So you can see in this example here, I have Professor Billingsley stated the importance of, quote, completing the tasks of all the projects on time, end quote. This little part in parentheses here is your in-text citation. That shows me that ilstu.edu is where you got this quote from. That's what that means. So whenever you have something in quotation marks in your paper or that you've taken from another source, you need to have this in-text citation. All right, so and that's kind of explained right here. Now, I will say this, if you cite the same source multiple times in the same paragraph, I'm okay if you just put that in-text citation at the end of the paragraph. But if you're citing more than one source in the same paragraph, or if you're citing just at one time, you really need to have it right after it's cited in the sentence. All right, so there are two types of sources that we have. We have print sources and we have digital sources. And so there's two types of in-text citations. In-text citations for print and in-text for digital. They're not hard. You really, in all reality, only have about 4 options of what to do. And what I use with this is kind of treat it like a hierarchy system. Start with option A. If that doesn't work, go to plan B. If that doesn't work, go to plan C. And you really probably will never have to use plan D. So, if you have a print source, plan A is that at the end of it, you put the author's last name and the page number. That's it. No dates. You're thinking of APA if you use dates. That's a totally different citation style. Don't do it. If you're a nursing student, trust me, you will become familiar with APA, but it is not this class. So, for MLA, you start out with the author's last name and the page number. Now, if for some reason the author does not have a source, again, like I said in part 1, if you have a medical citation, or if you mention the author's name in the actual quote itself, like right here it says Billingsley pointed out, if that happens, then you don't want to put the author's name twice because that would look weird. So instead you would put the title and the page number, or just the page number. And those are pretty much your options. That's it. Either the author's last name and the page number, or the title and the page number, or just the page number. A, B, and C. 3 options for print sources, and that's it. All right, digital sources I think are even easier because you really only have 2 options here. With a digital source, there's no page number. A website doesn't have a page number. So your only 2 options are to A, put their last name only, the last name of the author. If there's no author, or if you mention the author in your paper, then you just put the web address. And by web address, I don't mean the www.nytimes.com/storiesoftheday/527984. Don't include all that mumbo jumbo. MLA has revised its rules where it's like, this is all I want. nytimes.com. That's it. Just the basic web URL. If you put www or any of that other jargon in your in-text citation, I'm going to count off for it because you're not supposed to do it. Keep it simple. All right, so we talked about what a works cited page. It's the page at the very end. I hope that covers in-text citations. Like I said, they're very easy. People give them a more complicated rap than they need. If you have questions, you can always ask. But that's pretty much it with in-text citations. It's pretty cut and dry. This is the meat of our MLA citation discussion, which is the works cited page, the big page at the end. So, something a lot of people forget, your sources on your last page, your works cited page, need to be in alphabetical order by the first thing you cite, whether it's the author's last name, the title, whatever you start that citation with, you need to organize them in alphabetical order. And a lot of times that happens right before you turn your paper in. You just move sources around and make them work. So, If you've been watching the discussion forums, I have been correcting a lot of your posts and commenting on what you're doing with the titles of your pieces of literature. That's what this page is for. As you can see here, and you might have to put up the original presentation to see this side over here because my little video does cut part of it off. The stuff that is in italics, I like to think of are your big texts, your book titles, your television show titles, the kind of big text there. This stuff in quotation marks are your little things, like songs, or single poems, or an episode of a TV show, or a chapter of a book, or a short story. Anything small is in quotation marks in terms of the title. Anything big, like an overall show or an overall book, is in italics. So please go back to this page, save this page, because I have been counting off on your discussion forums, and I'm going to count off as grammar errors in your papers if you get these wrong. Because here's the page, shows you what you should do. And this presentation's been up since week 1, so there you go. Alright, so the basics. MLA is all about, it's a formula. And as long as you tinker the formula, depending on what type of source that you cite, it's not actually that hard. It's kind of like riding a bike. The more you cite, the better and easier it gets. Now I will say this. Some of you are going to be like, well, I'll just use Microsoft Word's citation generator, or I'll just use EasyBib. There's a couple problems with that, my friend. One, if you use a citation generator, there could be 2 things wrong with it. The main thing is it may not be updated. MLA has updated several times in the last few years, all with little edits. So there's a chance that you can use a citation generator, but it may turn it out wrong. So that kind of wastes your time. And 2, the other problem is a lot of citation generators will give you boxes to fill in and they'll organize it in the right way, but sometimes they don't give you enough boxes, or they don't ask for enough information. So your citation ends up missing pieces that it is supposed to have. And then the final thing is, do not use Microsoft Word's MLA formatting. It's awful. I have never seen a student use it correctly. I don't know what it is, if the programmers just didn't understand MLA, but it is awful. Do not go into Microsoft Word's MLA citation generator. It will lead you astray. This is the main formula for MLA. You start out with the author's last name, a comma, then the first name. That's always the first thing with MLA, unless your source doesn't have an author. We talked in the last part about medical sites. If it doesn't have an author, then you start with the next thing, which is the title of the work. Then the publisher, the date, and the medium. The medium is what type of source is it? Is it a print source or is it a web source, meaning it's digital? All right, so for books, this is how you would cite it. So I gave you guys the citation for our textbook. This is what I went off of. The author's last name, then first name, title of the book's in italics here. With a book, you put down the city of publication, then the publisher, the year, and the medium. And then I've got my little example down here. All right. Books are fairly easy and straightforward, but I'm going to guess that most of you are probably going to use a web source. So I'm going to skip ahead to that. A web source is not much different. We still have our author last name and then our first name. We have the title of the web page. Since it's an article, a small text on a big site, we have our small text, the title of the web page in quotation marks, and then our big text, which is the whole website, is in italics. And like we did with the in-text citations, just shorten it up. You don't have to put the whole www and all that jazz. You just put the little web basic URL. Then we have the publisher, the date it was published. If there is no date, you go down like I did here and you just put n.d. for no date. Then the medium. Since it's a web source, you put web. And finally, only for digital sources do you put what's called an access date, meaning when did you find this source? And that's what this is here. There's the access date, obviously not today, but the access date of when this presentation was made. And I've updated as years have gone on. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much a web source. Now, I will say this about the publisher. A lot of people get confused because oftentimes the publisher and the web URL are the same. So for example, if you cite a YouTube video, you're going to have in italics youtube.com. Guess who publishes YouTube? YouTube. So it's going to be the same. And most of your websites, you're going to come into this problem. But MLA makes you do that because what if they're different? Then you have to put them both down. So it may seem redundant that you put the same thing twice, one in italics and one not in italics, but it's just how MLA works. So we'll just have to work with it. All right. Dates. I will say this. Dates are done day, month, year. And a lot of people aren't used to that. So make sure that you do like I have the date here. Your day, if your month has more than 4 letters, you abbreviate it, and then the year. And like I have in the red here, do not put www on your URLs. I will check it wrong. You've read it here. You've heard it straight from the source. All right. As far as journals go, journals are probably the least likely to be used in this class, but I do put them up here because they have the most parts to them. I would argue journals are the hardest sources to cite because there's so much pieces to the citation. It starts out like we typically expect. We've got our author last name and first name and the title of the article. Then you have the journal title in italics. What makes it different is most journals, whether they're web or print, will have volumes and issues. So like here, you don't have to write down volume, you don't have to write down issue. You just put the number of the volume and the number of the issue. And then, this is the only time you use parentheses with an MLA citation. Only time is with a journal article. You put the date in parentheses here, then a colon, then the page number, and then print or web. That's it. I should not see parentheses with any other source that's being cited except for a journal if you use a journal. Okay? Good so far? All right. If you still have questions, there's a lot of things that you can do. I would recommend saving this presentation. I know I talk fast. Go back through each part. Purdue OWL is run by Purdue University in Indiana. They have an amazing English program, and their English majors constantly keep their site updated. So if you have a weird source that you're citing, like a tweet or a movie or an image, you can look on here, or you can always email me or call me. If I'm out of my office, leave me a voicemail. If it's over the weekend, please email me. And just ask questions. The worst thing that somebody can do is wait till the last minute and then say, oh, hey, I know this paper's due in an hour, but how do I cite videos? Just go ahead and ask. You know that your paper from the guidelines when it's going to be due. If you've got a question, just let me know. There is no such thing as a dumb question, especially with MLA, because it's something so specific to English. I'm happy to help answer your questions, and I'm happy to help you look at sources and make sure that they're going to be credible or not. So please visit this site, review this presentation, look at the actual presentation and see how these sources are set up. You're going to have a quiz over this, you're going to have an exam over MLA, and you're going to be doing exercises with it. So please familiarize yourself with the formula, look at the examples that Purdue OWL provides, that this presentation provides, and please ask questions. I hope that this helped you guys, and I look forward to seeing your papers, both number 3 and especially number 4, because it usually ends up being my favorite. It's where you guys get creative. So anyway, if you like this video, I might make more of them. Just your call. But otherwise, have a great night, a great day, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.